I'm delighted to have with me today Michel Jarraud, Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, and we're going to talk about the weather. But the weather is not something simplistic. We're not just talking about the need to forecast the weather so we can take an umbrella out. It's also an extremely important issue for industry, for farmers, for fishermen. So when we're talking about weather and climate change and predicting what's going to happen, what role has telecommunications had in improving your ability to forecast what's happening?
You may know that 90% of all natural disasters are related to weather, climate, water events. For almost all of them, it is possible to provide warnings in advance. But it's very important that these warnings reach to the people who need to make use of them. So decision makers, individuals, it's very, very important that we can reach out very, very quickly. And telecommunication are essential. If you have a hurricane, you don't want telecommunication to be inexistent because the equipment has been damaged. So we rely upon resilient system, and that's why we have such a close coordination with our colleagues from the telecommunication industry and at the United Nations system level with the ITU as well. It's very important that we coordinate action.
How accurate is weather forecasting? For example, if you're tracking the path of a hurricane through the Caribbean, it's as important that you know where it's not going to go as where it is going to go, because a lot of false alarms and people will become inured. They start to ignore the warnings if they've had to board up their house and the hurricane hasn't hit. So in terms of the time scale, what sort of time scale do you give yourself before you really start taking the path of a hurricane, for example, very seriously?
Yeah, so the warnings depend very much on the kind of phenomena. For a tornado, what you can give is warning for 15-20 minutes ahead. When it comes to a hurricane, the quality of the warnings for hurricane is extremely good 24 hours in advance, very good 48 hours in advance, and good 72, 96 hours in advance. So as the lead time of the phenomena of the warning is getting bigger, the quality decreases, but still you can get already useful hints 4, 5, 6 days in advance that there's a risk of a hurricane. And when you get closer to the event, you refine the warnings and therefore you refine the decision making. You would not usually evacuate 2 weeks in advance because, as you say, the risk of false alarm would be too high. But definitely when you come 24 hours, 48 hours in advance, this is the right time to make this kind of decision. And the quality of the warning is good enough to make this kind of decision. Right as we speak now in Bangladesh, a cyclone is threatening Bangladesh, and they've made the decision to evacuate the people based on the warnings. And they take it seriously. And through taking it seriously, they could reduce the fatalities linked to cyclones dramatically.
Is there an over-reliance on telecommunications and advanced forms of digital technology? For example, in the developing world, where people are extremely vulnerable to weather events. People's lives and livelihoods are extremely vulnerable to extreme weather events. If there's an over-reliance on digital technology for forecasting, often this technology hasn't been rolled out there.
You are right to say that in many developing countries, the quality of the telecommunication network is not as good as we would like. Sometimes, even if you make warnings, you don't have proper ways to get this warning to the people on the ground. So this is where we need to make further progress and to see what are the best technology and what is the best way to implement this new technology in the context of the European country.
To what extent has internet, telecommunications, digital technology generally increased people's general understanding of the weather and the climate? And it's especially important now that climate change is a politically contentious issue.
More and more people have access to information, so it certainly helps to get the correct information to everyone. You cannot hide information. You said climate change is contentious. Well, actually it is not contentious. What is still under debate is what action should be taken to fight climate change, what action should be taken to adapt to the climate change which is underway. But now there is no discussion any longer, is there climate change? Yes, it's underway. there's a consensus. It's unequivocal. So now no one really, very, very few people are arguing against that. There's a huge consensus. But how do we adapt to it? How do we contribute to the mitigation of that? And there the new technologies are absolutely vital.
And just finally, although telecommunications, ICTs are a very important tool for you, they also contribute to climate change because they produce 2.5% of greenhouse gases, or at least powering the networks does. What can they do to diminish that?
Well, indeed, it's part of the problem, but it's very much part of the solution as well. When it comes to how to have new technology to reduce the emission, that I'm really not an expert. But from my perspective, I would definitely encourage every effort to be made to reduce the emission which are due to the IT. But what I see is the huge potential of by using ICT to reduce the emission, reduce the need for travel, be able to warn people in case of natural disaster much more effectively, and so on. So yes, it's part of the problem, but it's also a fundamental part of the solution.